Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Elon Musk's father, Errol Musk. Thank you very much indeed for being with us here on Arabiya News once again. You have spoken to the British media yourself, and you've said that you don't view Nigel Farage as being, quote, a strong man. It rather sounds like you and your son are aligned on this issue.
Yes, no, I would say we are, yes, absolutely. It's not a complicated problem. It's rather simple, actually. So it's it's obvious what's going on. And so there's, like minds think, alike,
Yeah, I mean, you've said Nigel Farage does not have what it takes and that the Reform UK party needs a new leader. I mean, that's pretty scathing. And I'm just wondering why this is being said about Nigel Farage.
Well, last week on another channel, English channel, I said that, in my opinion, Farage is not strong. He's not a strong man. He talks sense and so forth, and I can imagine him in a ministerial position quite easily, and even as a wingman. But as the lead man, I feel he doesn't have the strength. It doesn't come across to me that he has the strength. I said on television last week, and then this was followed up. I haven't spoken to Elon lately, and this was followed up by Elon saying that he thinks Farage is no good. And I mean, Elon was basically thinking of the poor showing that Farage has made with the grooming gangs for rape, and then of course the fact that Tommy Robinson is in solitary confinement for 18 months for doing more or less nothing. And so that's what Elon is referring to. And so, yes, I completely agree with that, I agree with Elon completely.
Yeah, you've raised lots of issues there, and we'll come back to some of them. Just specifically about Nigel Farage, is there something about him, his personality, is there something about about him that worries you?
No, he talks sense, and he's been at it for a long time. But, it's like, how do you tell when somebody is a, great movie star? How do you tell? It's very difficult to explain what it is. It's charisma, it's X factor, and so forth, And then, the other thing is, if you're going to get England out of the hole it's dug itself into, a contracting economy, just everything going wrong everywhere, and they try and tax themselves out of it. It's laughable. Then you realize you need somebody who's literally prepared to be, crucified to be a leader. You don't want somebody who's basically prepared to just get up and between one cigarette and another and make a few, sort of comments about we'll have an inquiry. No. The situation is way beyond just doing little inquiries and things. The situation there is out of control. And this Starmer guy is going. He's going to go. I said 3 months ago, he won't make February. And I can tell you now, he won't make February. He won't make the end of February.
OK, so what you're saying is that, first of all, Nigel Farage does not have what it takes, in your opinion. He's lacking the star power, as you put it, that an actor perhaps might or might not have. And you're also saying that the British Prime Minister isn't going to last another month. Can you just clarify that for us?
Well, the feeling one gets, I've been in the political wars for years. And, you get the feeling this is not going to last. You start seeing what happens on the ground, and you realize, wait a minute, this is not going to last. And so, perhaps 3 months ago during those riots, I said this government's not going to last. And my thoughts focus on February. I see the people in England are saying by the end of the year, but I can't see that going. I can't see it going that long, And it's not. It's not that Nigel Farage is a bad person or anything like that. Obviously, I'm sure he's a very nice, personable person, and so forth. But it's about whether you have the, do you have the Spartacus factor? Do you have the Napoleon factor? Do you have it or don't you have it? It's not about, whether you're a nice person or not.
Going back to Nigel Farage specifically, and then we'll come back to Keir Starmer. I mean, Nigel Farage is the leader of a successful third, fourth party in the United Kingdom that appeared from nowhere not so very long ago. They managed to score about 14% of the votes during the election in July. They won, I think, 5 seats as well. I mean, they're not doing too badly, are they, for a party that's pretty new on the scene?
No, not at all. Quite frankly, they've done quite well. And, from our point of view, the Tories are just the Whigs with a different coloured jacket on. So, no, reform is good. And Elon will still provide funds for them, either by lending the money or giving the money, whatever's allowed. But no, reform is very good. I've got nothing against them, and I've got nothing against Nigel Farage. I'm just saying that in order to move forward, you can't have, decisions over a cup of tea. You can't make, this is serious what's going on there. You've got a man who put his life on the line, and that's Tommy Robinson, who very likely, if you look at the history in the world for the last 2,000 years and beyond, and before that even, Tommy Robinson is very likely going to be the Prime Minister of England in due course, or the UK, I mean. So it's difficult to understand now. But, if you take our country, for example, in 1963, Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment after his death sentence was commuted. And if you'd said in those days, he's going to be the president of South Africa one day, people would have absolutely thought you were off your head with stupidity. No, it's if you go back, it's so many of the people, that have been in prison. Nehru was in prison in India. You could just go on and on. There's so many examples. And, so Tommy Robinson is the person to look to, who has shown manliness, who has shown that he's got the X factor, he's got something. Nigel is a very nice person, and talking nicely to these Labour types, they're going to run rings around him.
Okay, I don't think our viewers will have ever heard Tommy Robinson's name mentioned in the same sentences as Nelson Mandela. But I just want to ask why the interest in UK politics, and why would your son Elon want to support the Reform Party at all?
Well, let me just get back to Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela placed various bombs which actually caused a power line to topple and killed many people, many, you could say, innocent people. He had several other crimes. So when you start saying, how can you possibly compare Mandela to Tommy Robinson? You must realize that in those days, Nelson Mandela was an absolute scoundrel as far as the country was concerned. He was not a great person. They wanted to hang him. So let's get real here. And so when we come back to Tommy Robinson, it requires a little bit of a broader frame of mind to understand what I'm saying. My professor of history would agree with me. And so it's what you have to look at in history, what happens in history. When you take your political opponents and lock them up on spurious charges, then you start to look at who it is they're locking up. And so, all right. So coming to your next question, look, we are all English-speaking people. We are all part of what was originally the Commonwealth. Even England, even the United States, I beg your pardon, was a country set up originally, the colonies, by England. England went around the world bringing civilization. They brought education. They brought roads. They brought hospitals. They brought everything that was needed, administration, to all the world. And we all benefited from it. And in fact, America wouldn't be what it is today if the colonies hadn't benefited from it as well. And so we are all English, and we look at England as a sort of parent country. And we all, in the past, over the last 50 years, certainly of my 50 years of time in business and work and so on, we always thought of England as, they're the people who know how it's done. They're the people who have all the answers. They are the people who set the example. And as I said on another channel, when I was a young boy working in an engineering office, we would always be aware when the man from England came through to the office from London and so forth. And we always would want to just have a look at him and peek at him and see if we could see him in the office, because he always wore a pinstripe suit and he had a flower in his lapel. And so that's how the people in the outside world, including Elon, see England. We see it as our parent country. And when we see our parent country, floundering and doing things that we can't believe, we have to get involved. We have to get back in the boats and go back, if you want it like that,
Can I just pick up on that? Because, I mean, you said last week in this interview, you said someone needs to get England out of this. A strong man needs to get England out of this, you said. I mean, when you say this, what are you referring to? What does England need to get out of?
England's economy is contracting. So if it contracts at this rate over the next few years, it goes very quickly, it compounds. And so in a few years' time, short years' time, the economy might be 10 to 15% smaller than it is. And then it won't be able to sustain the population. And this is very serious. And, in times gone by, everything we bought came from England. In this country and other countries I've stayed in, Canada and so on, virtually everything we bought came, or not everything, but nearly everything, certainly in South Africa, came from England. And these days, absolutely nothing comes from England. So it is very serious. And not only that, I mean, the things that they've been doing, putting people in prison and taking out prisoners to place people who said something on Facebook in prison. I believe there are 3,000 people, I'm told by Elon, that are in prison in England for posting or saying things that were not agreeable to this Starmer government. That's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And that's not England. It's not England, And so England is a place where we learn decency, where we learned about giving people another chance, giving people an opportunity to improve themselves. That's where it all came from. During the war, England was the Second World War. England was just wonderful. It's like the most wonderful country that stood it out, and produced extraordinary people. It's not really rocket science, what I'm saying. It's common sense.
When it comes to Nigel Farage, who is, of course, a close friend of Donald Trump's, they've had a friendship that goes back quite a long time. I mean, do you get the impression that Elon is consulting the Trump script here, or is he going it alone when he attacks?
I wouldn't be able to say.
Nigel Farage?
I would imagine, as Trump is a very streetwise man, he did all his business in New York. I mean, if you're not streetwise there, you've had it. No. I would imagine they've all realized that by now, with the things going on in the UK, that Farage has not been able to do anything about it and has really not, put himself in the firing line. And I imagine that worries them because, as you know, last year, Trump, in spite of all the things that were done to him, lawfare and all the incredibly wicked and basically criminal things that were done to Trump, he kept on until he was shot, if you understand what I mean. And so we're not seeing that with Farage. We're seeing that he's chatty with his Starmer crowd, and that's not going to help. That's not going to help. These people have to be thrown out on their backsides. If they don't get out, they have to be thrown out.
Yeah, your son is saying at the moment that America should liberate the people of Britain from their tyrannical government. I mean, I don't think the people of England have ever heard anything like that before. I mean, is there really such a great sense of...
You used those words. I didn't say that.
No, that's what your son, Elon Musk, has just put out in a tweet. America should liberate the people of Britain from their tyrannical government. Those are his words. I mean...
Oh, his words. Yeah, well, it's not my words. But fair enough, that's Elon's words.
What's he getting at?
So Elon is my son, and I suppose in that respect, I shouldn't say, but he's the smartest guy I've ever met. I've known, my own son. So the thing is, I've learned from long experience to listen to what Elon says, because even as a child, he was worth listening to. And so, yes, I think Elon is probably right if he said that. And, we have a situation where at the present time, it's almost impossible for the Trump administration to deal with this government in England. The ministers of this government in Starmer and so forth, and the ministers have said such extraordinary rude things about Trump, way beyond, sort of slander. I mean, it's way beyond slander. And it's disgusting. And how on earth do you now meet with these people and actually attempt to have deals and make...
Yeah, but Nigel Farage isn't one of the people who's made rude comments about Donald Trump. Quite the opposite. He's been extremely supportive of him.
No. Let me say, Nigel is held in high regard. It's not about him personally. It's not about Nigel Farage personally. He's obviously a very nice person, and he's obviously stuck it out. I've watched him on the European Union floor when he's got up and said things which took quite a lot of guts to say. And so, Farage is definitely minister material. I mean, for a new government, he's very much the kind of wingman you want. But what we're saying is that he isn't the man that is needed at this point. He isn't strong enough. But at the same time, we've said he's now been given a bit of a warning shot across his bows by us, and therefore let's see what he can do. Let's do the English thing and give him another chance. Let's see what he comes up with. We'll give him another chance for sure. We might even give him a third chance, but he has to come up with something stronger. These people that he's up against are playing hardball. They're not playing around. Starmer is playing hardball. And maybe people can't see it, but the things he's doing are tearing that society apart. So, if people can't see it, I'm sorry for them. I'm very sorry for them. The average British person can barely get by with the amount of tax that they have to pay. With every British pound, about 60 pence of it is going in taxes. Every pound they earn, it's no good. You can't live like that anymore.
Just interested to know how you think Farage has handled all of this, because he's obviously probably quite embarrassed to be told and to hear in a public forum that he's not up to the job. He's responded by saying, he doesn't agree with everything your son says, but he does think your son is his hero. So pretty complimentary nevertheless. Do you think the relationship is reparable, or do you think it's beyond repair?
Oh, no, there's nothing beyond repair. As I said, we can give him a second chance. You must realize, of course, that Elon's tweet is the result of quite a bit of discussion. It didn't just come out of the blue. He's been told a few times that, what are you going to do? It's not as though he's suddenly been, surprised by this. This is the culmination of, a few weeks of talking, about it. And, he's not coming up with the goods. And he's going back to the basis that England is civilized, and he must try and behave in a civilized manner. Sorry, I beg your pardon, somebody coming in there. You have to behave in a civilized manner, and Farage is doing that. But in the circumstances, I'm not saying you mustn't be in a civilized manner, but I'm saying you have to be a little more, show a little more strength. There has to be. Otherwise, Starmer's just going to go on and tear this country to pieces.
Well, he's only had 6 months or so to do the job as Prime Minister. He only came to power in July. And some might say your son has got this remit, which is to cut the federal budget in the United States and act as a special advisor for Donald Trump when he takes office in precisely 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
Some might say he's getting a little bit ahead of himself, dealing in issues that are not yet on his remit, and 2 weeks ahead of the Trump administration taking office. What do you say to that?
Elon is still a private person. So at this point in time, he's able to do this kind of thing. If he joins the cabinet in 2 weeks' time, which I'm sure he won't then be a private person. He'll be speaking on behalf of the administration. So he would have to get, the approval of the president. And I imagine he will get that. They are talking about this all the time. It's not as though he's all by himself and, deciding these things. No. Thinking people are busy thinking about all this. And, the Trump win was a wake-up call for the European countries to see that they must make a change in what's happening. They are not going to be prisoners of the WEF and so forth in future. And you're seeing this in Europe, not only in England. People are realizing, wait a minute, we're having our countries taken away from us. We're having all our rights taken away from us. We're less important in our own countries than people that come from third world countries. And this is no good, And so Elon and Trump and so forth obviously discuss it all the time. It's not as though they don't discuss it, obviously. And, it's been put to Farage a few times. What are you going to do? And so what he's done hasn't really brought out much to show that he's worth being there. And for that reason, this tweet was made. And in fact, before the tweet was made, last week, I said on Talk TV, I think it was, that, Farage is not strong enough to be the leader. And I was preempted them. I was ahead of them, of Elon in that regard.
We've talked in the past, Mr. Musk, about your relationship with your son. And I just want to ask you, in the past you have said you're concerned sometimes about your son. A couple of years ago, you said you were worried even about his eating habits. Do you still worry about him?
Sure. Of course I'm worried about my son. I'm worried about all my children. Listen to any parent. Obviously. No, I've got no worry about Elon in terms of his thinking and what he's doing. No, he's really doing very well. And the proposed DOGE committee is desperately needed in America, where you've had numerous government departments where the people don't even come to work, haven't even come to work in the space of a year, haven't even used their offices, which have lights on and air conditioning on and all that sort of thing, and haven't even been in their offices inside a year and picking up government checks. No, the waste is unbelievable there. And the can-do people have started to realize that and get rid of these so-called can't-do people. Elon's job ahead of him, thank heavens he has somebody to help him, is very, very important. And it will be done.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it. Errol Musk, thank you very much indeed.